welcome to Be Inspired Today. I am your host, Cliff Wright, and I have a wonderful guest here today. His name is Theo Caesar. However, I call him Neff and he calls me Unc. God connected us about 3 years ago, maybe two and a half, 3 years ago. And there was just this connection between us as an uncle and nephew coming together. He has tremendous talents. He is the CEO of 90210 Talent. Welcome to our show, Theo.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. I'm truly excited to have you on here. I had you work with me on another podcast about a year or so ago, and I see it's getting a whole lot of traction. And we were talking about being reinvented. And
Mhm.
today we're going to talk about something that I believe God wants everyone to know. First of all, to hold on to positive expectations. And Theo is going to share with us how unscheduled appointments cause him to hold on to positive expectations. So go ahead and tell the audience your story.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate you and Be Inspired and, just everything that you guys are doing. And I appreciate the fact that whenever you got something going on, you reach out and ask me to be a part of it. I appreciate that. With me and my story, I started in this business, in the entertainment business very early on. I'm born and raised in the Bronx, born in Harlem. Think shout out to that hat.
Yes.
But we lived in the Bronx. That's where I grew up. And the short story is I kind of fell into acting and was mentored by a woman there. And we want to talk about divine appointment. I was going to a party. I wasn't in this acting class. A friend of mine in my building was in this acting class, and they were having a little party on the weekend. And so he invited me to go down to the party with him, and I had no intention of doing anything involved with any kind of acting or anything like that, man. I was just being myself. I was probably about nine years old, and I was just happy to be out of the Bronx without my parents. So I was just showing out, being me, and just there's little girls there and everything, and I'm just enjoying my life. And the teacher, you know me, I'm a very animated person. I'm kind of like I'm always on. So the teacher kind of took notice of that and just came up and was like, "Who are you?" And long story short, I became not only her student as an actor, but she also became my manager and my mentor, and taught myself and my family, a lot about this business. This woman was a successful Broadway actress. She had a great network of people and everything, and so I felt like, in hindsight, you don't see these things, but that was probably my first divine appointment, because that meeting all those years ago, back in the '80s, led me to where I am right now. This was probably '82. And so here we are, 40 years later, and I'm, I'm in this business because of that meeting with that lady. You know what I mean? And sitting here talking to you right now because of that meeting with that woman. She went on to, like I said, be my manager and mentor, and then she got us into a position where, and when I say us, I have another friend who is he's also out here and in the business, and he's one of the biggest writers in the business, and we came up together, you know. Um, and she groomed us and got us ready, and moved us to the point where we got agents and started to book TV shows, and we've done plays, and I did off Broadway at the Negro Ensemble Company. I did a play there. I did, just Police Academy 3 was my first movie that I ever wound up doing, and it's just been a bunch of fortunate situations that I really just didn't understand at the time and didn't really see the magnitude of all that it is. So long story short, I left acting when I was in my teens. I went to LaGuardia High School. High School of Performing Arts. A lot of people know the show and the movie Fame, which was kind of based off of our high school. I went to that school, and I went in there as a professional actor, and my ego was just getting to be ridiculous. So after about 2 years in school, man, I was just getting to the point where I was like blowing off auditions and not really staying focused in it. So my family decided, you know what, if you're not going to keep this, be serious about this, we're ready to leave New York, because New York is an interesting place to live, man. It's there's no way that I would have raised my kids in that city. Just knowing all the stuff that I experienced and went through as a young man, growing up in New York. But we moved down to Virginia, and so I was back and forth on my own for a few years, going from 16 to about 20. I was going back and forth between Virginia and New York. And then finally in 93, my girlfriend at the time and we decided to leave and move down to go to Virginia. So we lived in Virginia for about, I lived there all together for about, after leaving in 93, for about 13 years. And I owned a recording studio out there, and I did music and all this kind of stuff. And I ended up signing a voiceover contract with a company called Studio Center in '05. And again, a divine appointment. The way that happened was I was in my studio, and I would start recording, making up commercials for people who, other businesses that were in the same block. We were on like a strip mall kind of thing where it's like different businesses. So I would just go down to the other businesses and find out what their businesses were about. And I started creating them commercials, just in case, like a 60-second and a 30-second commercial spot, to see if they would want to buy it and do some advertising on the radio for their business. Well, a woman that I knew that was on the radio heard one of my commercials and asked me to do a commercial for an awards show that she was doing for local music artists. It was called the Blendsville Awards. Her name was Miss Blends. And we had been friends for a long time. And so I did this commercial for her for the Blendsville Awards. And it was the first of its kind and the only of its kind for years, actually, out there in VA. And she wound up introducing me to a woman that was involved with this company called Studio Center and doing voiceover work. And so I got to doing voiceover work there. And at first it was a bit of a struggle trying to figure it out. Everybody thinks that just because you got a good voice that you can do voiceover, and that's not really what it is. You have to be able to understand the tones and the speaking, and it has to be clear, and it has to be, there's a lot more to it than people realize. And so I didn't know anything about it. Again, it was one of those type of situations where I fell into it and kind of had a bit of natural talent. But even having natural talent, you have to be trained. You have to learn. You have to know what's going on. And so I spent a couple of years doing that and figuring it out. And a situation came up where I decided I forget music. I need to go back to the acting business. And the reason why actually is because I hadn't been in touch with SAG or my agents or anybody from the time that I was 16 years old when I quit acting. And so now here we are 16 years later, I'm 32 years old. And my brother-in-law, who's an entertainment attorney out in Boston, he said to me, man, are you getting your residuals for all of those movies and stuff that you did when you were a kid? And I didn't know what a residual was. I knew what royalties were for music, and that's what I was like, you talking about royalties? He was like, nah, man, residuals. So he called the union. So I called SAG, man. They had been holding thousands of dollars over the years. See, what happens with the union is if you're a member of the union, they owe you residuals. Let's say they're mailing out checks to you and the checks are coming back. They'll just hold that money in an account and build it up, let it build up for you until you come and claim it. You or somebody, that can prove that they're an overseer of your estate or somebody in your family, something like that. So I contacted the union. They had thousands of dollars for me, man. It solved so many problems at the blink of an eye. So I said, forget this music stuff, man. I'm going back to acting. And so
you're a businessman as well.
man, I was like, I know I had kids to feed. I had babies to feed, and things was tight. And so I thought I was going to go back to New York at the time, but if I had gone back to New York, that would have meant that I had to forfeit my voiceover contract because I didn't have the means, it wasn't like it is today where we can get on our laptop and set us up with a home studio real easy and stuff like that. And I didn't have the means. If I was going to go back to New York, I couldn't take the whole studio with me, and so I wouldn't be able to do it that way. So the alternative was that I could move to LA and still have my position with the voiceover company and figure it out. So after a bunch of prayer over it and talking to my family and kids' moms and things like that, I felt like I had enough support and I felt like I had a green light from God to just go. It was like I knew nobody in Los Angeles when I came out here, and I was dead broke by the time I got here. Like
Wow.
literally, I was so broke that when I spent my first night in LAX, I could not afford a candy bar when I got here. Literally, no exaggeration. But again, divine appointment. When I got here and I couldn't leave the airport, I met a guy who worked for the Super Shuttle. And overnight, me and this dude, we just talking, we just kicking it. Like you know, I never met a stranger. I'm like, I could talk to anybody anywhere. I used to be in, yeah, I used to be in Virginia in the country music bars and be singing along to the songs when they doing country music karaoke. I'd be the only black person in there, and I know all the songs. You know what I mean? But
Right,
it don't
right.
matter. I just, I never met a stranger. I feel like we all God's kids. You know what I mean? So that means we all connected one way or another. And it's just a matter of us getting our heads wrapped around that and understanding that we are the same. And so me and this guy, we started talking, and he basically gave me the lay of the land. Like, you want to be in acting, you probably want to go up towards Hollywood and the Valley. You don't want to be out here in Compton and down here in South Central and all this kind of stuff. And so that was very helpful. He put me on to hostels. I thought I was gonna stay in like one of those like efficiency type hotels. He was like, "Yo,
Hmm.
you could get a hostel." A hostel was like $25 a day at the time, $150 a week. So one of my best friends loaned me $150 the next morning, and that started my journey here. And so I got to LA on January 31st, 07, but I got to Hollywood February 1st, 07. And that's how I found my way. And I found myself a hostel. I had the address to the recording studio where I was doing my voiceover, and that's all I had. So I had the person take me close to there on Hollywood Boulevard, and I went and just looked for all these hostels until I found one. Um, some of my people that I was in that hostel with, now this is 15 years ago at the end of next month. Some of those people that I was in that hostel with are still homies to this day. I started in that hostel, not knowing nobody, not knowing nothing about LA, but I had God and I had hustle. So I started to find out what's going on in LA. What can I get into? What's the work? Blah blah blah. When I wasn't doing auditions for voiceover, it didn't take much time. And so I would be in the library and I get a day pass. Day pass was only $3 a day at that time. You could ride the metro all day and long until like 3 in the morning for $3 a day. And so really quickly, I found my way into extras casting. I was doing like background work and going to these different companies and stuff like that. And so I found my way into extras casting. So
Wow.
all the people in the hostel, anybody that ever helped me, I had a homeboy in there named Crash that, like, I remember a time where I was just sitting around, I was hungry, but I wasn't telling nobody, you know what I mean, stuff like that. So the brother just hooked me up with some food or hooked me up with some soup or whatever. So when I got a chance, and the guy who gave me the bed in the hostel, like I would as soon as I got a chance to do extras casting, these were the first people that I would put some money in their pocket.
All
Because
right.
back in those days, it was like, come to the set, you'd be on set for a few hours, you're gonna walk away with $50 cash. I was like my homies, first and foremost. I know where they live, I know what their situations are, and etc. And I've always been that kind of person. You help me with anything, I got you somewhere along the line. It's like a not even so much a debt, but it's just that I feel like that's the way life is supposed to go. We're supposed to reciprocate. We're supposed to look out for each other. And so a lot of those, some of those people, my people to this day, like I literally just ran into a dude from the hostel that I hadn't seen back in since those days. I literally ran into him like last Saturday on Hollywood Boulevard. We was talking about those old days and and all this kind of stuff. And so through that, so again, divine appointment, I feel. The extras casting company, the way I got into extras casting, another divine appointment. I go to this casting company. They're supposed to be a casting company, an actual legit casting company, which they weren't. But back in those days when I got out here, these extras casting companies would charge you like, $50, $80, $100 to sign up with the company in order to get some work for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I go there to sign up with the company, and as I'm standing there, I overhear the boss on the phone with one of his producers. He got his producer on speakerphone. And the guy's like, man, I just finished this movie and I don't have much of a budget, but I need 10 songs. And I need for my soundtrack, I need about 10 songs. I need them to sound like the good, the bad, and the ugly, like that kind of feel to it,
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, excuse me, sir, I don't mean to be rude. I didn't mean to be in your conversation, but it just so happens that I used to own a recording studio for over a decade. I have a great network of people who do music. If you let me use your phone, I'll get you some submissions for this guy, because the guy was offering. He said, I only got $20,000 and I need 10 songs. That's $2,000 a song. Let me tell you something. In my little studio, that was way more money than I made for any of the music we did. And so I started getting my friends on the phone and getting them to email over samples and everything. And the man is watching me. And he's like, man, I like the way you work, man. I like the way you move. He's like, what are you doing for a living? I said, I just came over and signed up with you, didn't I? To do some extra work. And he said, well, it just so happens that the guy who was doing all my booking quit last week, walked out on me. I didn't stop to think, well, why'd he quit? Right. But I was like, all right, then,
yes.
I saw it as God. You know what I mean? And I still see it that way. So I saw it as God. And so I was like, all right, well, let me get this position. So I wound up taking that position. Come to find out, this guy kind of had a reputation. He had burned himself, with a lot of circles and things like that. However, that had nothing to do with me. I was the new kid on the block. And so I just dealt with my integrity and the way I moved. And then, started to get a name and a reputation that there was a new kid at the agency that this guy is all right. He's an upstanding member. And, I would give the guy like all kinds of guff if he was doing anything wrong, because my thing is, you ain't going to take nobody's money or play with nobody's money if my name is involved in it. I'm not having that. I'm not having that. I don't. And luckily I was in a position with my voiceover work where my voiceover was starting to pick up. Right. And it was a little side hustle. So I might, like in my best times doing voiceover, I might work twice a month and still pull $8,000 to $10,000, doing voiceover work. And that's just off a couple of sessions, man. Like my longest session doing voiceover ever was 3.5 hours, and I walked out with $4,000. You know what I mean? So it was that kind of situation. So as I got to be in that position, it became more like this. The extras were my people. The people doing background work, they were my people. So when it came to this production, or when it came to these, anybody that wanted to book them, if you ain't going to do them right, then you're going to deal with me. Yeah. So my thing is like this. If you say that you're going to pay these people at the end of the day, I might have the cash to make sure these people get paid at the end of the day on my pocket, and then tell the production, hey, I paid all these people. Now y'all owe me. I dare you not to pay me. I dare you. Y'all will not be filming again tomorrow. Because I will break up one of these generators. I'm telling you, I was on fire, man. So, but it helped because people understood this guy cares about the people he's bringing to set. He cares about, but also if I brought anybody to the set and they was acting like a jerk towards the production, now I'm going to protect the production. So it's a matter of tying that middle piece and
doing the right thing.
Yeah. And so I got to know people. I got to know a bunch of these actors or these aspiring actors that were doing this extra work. They had resumes, they had headshots and things like that. And I was like, well, how come you guys aren't doing regular auditions? What are you doing here doing this extra work? And they were like, nobody wants to talk to us. We can't get an agent. We can't get a manager. We can't get to the breakdowns and blah, blah. And I kept hearing breakdowns. You got to be on breakdowns. You want to help people, you got to get on breakdowns. And so getting on breakdowns is a bit of a catch-22. They make it a bunch of hoops you got to jump through. And
Mm-hmm.
so my probably biggest God appointment at this point was I was led through, I was trying to get into management, and I was led through a couple of women that I had met to meet this attorney down in Beverly Hills. And he was in the Bank of America building. It was like this ridiculous posh office, probably about 15 different attorneys in this office. But this one guy was, he had that corner office. He was the man. And his name was Tim Hall. And Tim is still my partner to this day. And so he was the one that actually started 90210 Talent. He had it up and running, but he's an attorney. He never had an interest really in being an agent. Um,
Mm-hmm.
his his assistant, his paralegal at the time, and another guy who was in his office, they kind of convinced him that it would be a good idea to start a talent agency and keep an eye on what was happening with actors and things like that, because this is right after the writer's strike, and actors were being really, really mistreated.
Wow.
Actors and models, they weren't being paid properly. People would take their image and just use it however they want, only pay them a little couple of table scraps. My partner was getting it right. He was getting these
Mm-hmm.
productions, holding their feet to the fire left and right, getting these actors paid, properly. So it quickly became known, don't mess with this law firm and screw these actors over. And
Wow.
then it got to be understood that 90210 Talent was somehow connected to this law firm. And if you're screwing people over out there, then you're gonna deal with, the boss man and everything.
That's
And
right.
but that wasn't the goal. That wasn't the goal for me. The goal, and I told my partner straight up, the goal for me is to actually turn this into a talent agency with working actors. I've always been a fan of film and TV. I've always loved that. And so I wanted to be able to help people do this, experience this. I've experienced it myself, and it was joy, but I didn't feel like I needed to be the person in front of the camera. It could be, I could be the one helping, since I had an idea and I felt I was put into a different position because I understood it I understood the game from so many different levels and so many different angles, and especially from the side of the actors, which a lot of reps don't really care about, or
Mm-hmm.
don't know, so that they can care, you know. And so, long story short, I became partners with Tim. I turned this into a working talent agency, and that was all a thing of God. And Tim, as it happens, we worked together for 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and at the end of those fifth year, we were coming up to a point where we our lease was coming up, and he asked me, "Would you be okay with us moving to like Encino, moving the agency, because our email, our company called 90210 Talent.
Right.
People assume we're going to be in Beverly Hills. We started in 90210. 2 years after that, we went 90211 for 3 years. And then he was like, "Do you have a problem with going to Encino?" I said, "Look, man, the community knows us now. They just know 90210 Talent, so it don't matter where we are. I've
Mm-hmm.
often worked at home, most of the time. I didn't like making that commute out to Beverly Hills, so."
Sure.
So I spent most of my time working at home anyway. So I was like, that's fine. So we all got together, me, him, and his other partner, Ani, who's another lawyer. And the three of us just rode around all day long in this area, and looking at different office spaces, right? On this trip, during this conversation, Tim and I are talking. I'm getting to know this man better than I've ever had the chance to sit down and get to know him.
Sure.
And come to find out, he tells me, when I was in college, man, I would walk around with my Bible so much and quoting so many Bible verses. My nickname was Preacher Man. And I said, "Are you kidding me? You're a man of God." I assumed he was Jewish all of these years. I assumed, it was something we never talked about. But come to find out, this is a man of God that gave me this opportunity. And I mean, there's the man, let me tell you, it's deeper than that. He told me straight up when I told him I wanted to take the agency over. He said, "You ain't gonna make no money doing it." He was like, nobody knows you. So therefore, all the actors that you get, ain't nobody gonna know them. You're gonna
Mm-hmm.
get table scrap jobs, and that's all to it. And I said, "Yeah, but if you got enough people doing it, we can grow, and we can make it work, right?" And he said, "All right, well, I'll tell you what, I'll pay all the bills. I'll handle all the overhead because I was doing it already. And on top of that, I won't take any profit from you.
Wow. Wow.
And 2022 is 13 years me and this man been working together, and the same still holds true. He has never taken a single profit from the agency.
My God.
Um,
My God.
and not only that, well, I after we moved to the office up in Encino, I took care. 90210 Talent was now on our feet. I took over the bills. I took over the actual operation of the agency. I took that off of his plate. But also at that point, we had gotten so straight with the way we set up these deals that there weren't a lot of situations where people were being mistreated and things like that. So our demographic kind of changed as far as how we were working together as an agency. And now he's just been more kind of an advisor, kind of when we need something, or the clients need, to have a contract reviewed or anything like that, Tim has been there for that. So it's all been God appointments. And even throughout, I, as a human and as the man I used to be, I have tried to tank myself. I have tried to end myself up in jail. I have tried to end myself up on drugs. I have tried to do all kinds of things to get myself off track, and God refused to allow it. He was like, I got something for you. I need you to do this.
Wow.
So get your head out your behind and do this. And I was like, nah, man, I like my head right where it is. But but you know how he do, man. He's gonna have his way. He's gonna have his way.
Oh
Or
yes.
or
Oh yes.
you know. And so that I mean, like, my life is just full of divine appointments out
Wow. Powerful, powerful story. Theo, what I'd like for you to do is just take a moment and speak to someone in the audience. They may be watching or they may be listening. Um, you have a phenomenal story of how God met you at various times. He always had a ram in the bush for you. And like you said,
here.
and I can identify with that too, because I had my head in the back of my body parts too for many years. So
Mhm.
just pray for someone and give them a word of encouragement that will inspire them to hold on to positive expectations. I love your story. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Um, you want me to say it a prayer? You want me to say a prayer, or
Yeah,
you want me
but
to just talk?
however the Lord just say, just go for it. Whatever,
All
however
right.
God.
Well, I just want to say that you're where you are because you're supposed to be there.
Mm,
A lot of what I went through in my life was the insecurity that I'm not supposed to be here. I've been in rooms with people that I've watched on TV my whole life and movies and things like that, and they've been talking to me just like a regular person, and I felt uncomfortable in my own skin because I
mm,
tricked myself into thinking that I wasn't supposed to be there. But God kept saying, "You're where I need you to be. Stay right there." And the one thing that He taught me is that if it's not uncomfortable, then it's not growth. You
wow.
know, people work out all the time. You go, you exercise your body and your muscles. You don't exercise at a level of comfort. You exercise at a level that's stretching you because you know you're getting results. You want to feel the burn. But when it comes to our life and when it comes to God, we don't want to feel the burn. We don't want to feel uncomfortable. We want it to just happen and just fall in line. But when it just happened and it's just given to you, we don't appreciate it. You
So
know,
true.
if we live in, like, say for instance, we live in sunny California. If it's all sunshine and rainbows every day, then what's bad? How do you know good if you don't know what's bad? You know,
Mm,
but every now and then you get some rain, and people get either panicked or, like with my wife and I, we love it. We get dressed up in our winter in our East Coast clothes and our boots and everything, and we go out in the rain and we have a good time because it's the difference, it's the change, and it makes you appreciate those sunshiny days when you've been sitting in the rain for a week. you know. And so it's just a matter of God don't make mistakes. His
Mm.
timing is absolutely perfect, and it's never our time. We always think that, I'm ready now. There's things that I believe that I've been ready for the last 5 years that I still don't have, but I know that they're promises that God is going to give me. You know,
Yes.
I know that there are things that are going to be fulfilled, but there's also the question of what do I need to do in order to properly align myself to receive such blessings. Like our pastor always says, God loves you, like a father. And once your kid first gets their driver's license in their teens, you're not going to give them a Ferrari because they'll kill themselves.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You have to, everything moves in increments and steps. You have to follow the ladder. You can't just take step one, step two, and then you ready to be at the top of the ladder. Because there's a bunch of stuff that's in the middle that you need to know or you need to experience that you don't. And so, a lot of times people they want to run and they want to be on top, but they're not prepared. And then they get mad at God because they're not getting what they feel they deserve or what they feel the word has been promised for them to have. But we have to understand that God's timing is just the most important thing. It's always going to be right. And that's why they say hindsight is 2020. Because
Yeah.
like for instance, I wanted to be a rapper really bad. And I'm good. I'm still good. I'm decent. It ain't like it used to be because back in the days when I was a rapper, it was all about battle rapping and I'm dope, you ain't nothing, and girls, let's get it, let's and all of this kind of stuff. But I always had a story to tell as well. But the vast majority of my freestyle and all of that was battling and putting people down and things like that. And so I had to learn how to change if I was going to do music again. I completely had to change that. And it's still a struggle for me. Music is still something that I do as a hobby, but it's still a struggle because I can't talk about what I used to talk about. I can't write what I used to write. I can't, because I can't present those things anymore. I'm not that man anymore, and it's not okay for me to say to send certain messages forth, you know.
Oh my God.
And so it's just, the thing is, you have to understand that you are where you're supposed to be. Now the question is, what lesson do you need to learn here? What cycle might you be stuck in that until you get this cycle right, you're not going to elevate to the next one. It's like repeating a grade in high school, or in school. If you don't pass that test, that final at the end, then you're going to
Yeah.
repeat that grade, you
That's so
know.
true.
And that's just how we are with life. And we understand. I've dealt with a lot of stuff like anger management. Oh, what I was saying about the rapping thing. I'm sorry. What I was saying about the rapping thing was, if I did have the skills. We did have a certain couple of situations where there were companies that wanted to sign us. I met with Loud Records. There was a bunch of different things, right?
Hmm.
But for some reason, it never panned out. And I know now it would have destroyed me. My ego was so big. I'm only 5'3". I'm 5'3". I'm 140, 145 pounds, man. And I would get to drinking and drugging and all this kind of stuff. And I swore I was the Hulk. I was, 6'9" all of a sudden and big rippling muscles, man. But I'm still this little tiny dude with a big mouth. Right. And so I know I would have been in jail, dead. I just all kinds of stuff at my own doing. And God was like, nah, man, I got something else for you. Yes, I did give you this skill, but you are not equipped to go forth with that. You're
Wow.
not equipped to go forth in that place. I have given you this skill. You can, you can do this. I'm good when it comes to making songs and things like that. Not so much as it's not as easy as it used to be, like I said, but it wasn't my calling because my head wasn't right, and I wouldn't get my head out of my behind long enough to understand. God was like, I need you to be humble. I
Yeah.
need you to walk in humility. I need people to see me when they see you, and you
Amen.
too focused on everybody seeing you.
Mm.
you know and so that's something I want to impart, man. Sometimes it's not, people get mad at God because it's like, well, you said you was going to do such and such, you promised me that I would have such and such. Yes, he did. but he also asked you to do blah, blah, blah. He also asked you to stop doing that one thing. He also said, close the door on that relationship and you ain't closed it. He also said, stop
Mhm.
looking at this kind of stuff and you ain't stopped doing it, you know? And so, like, even my Instagram, like looking at the differences now and 3 years ago of what my Instagram looked like, what my feed looks like. Nowadays, when I go on Instagram, I don't have to worry about a whole bunch of girls shaking their booty in my face. I got Bible verses and positive messages and kids. And, it's a matter of what we feed into ourselves, what we feed in our lives. And, we're human. We're fighting our own flesh.
That's
You
right.
know, it's funny.
Come on.
One of the last songs I wrote, the last lines of the song was, "It's hard to keep your soul aligned when you fight in your own flesh." you know, it's hard.
It's so true. It's an everyday
You know,
battle.
it's an everyday battle, and so that's something that I want to impart is that because I'm going through it just like everybody else. We all going through it. Me and my pastor talk. Me and we talk. We all are dealing with our own whatever the challenge is. We all dealing with it, right?
Hmm.
And we have to just stay in the presence of God and make sure that we're following Him and that He knows best, whether we like it or not, whether we agree with it or not, whether there's stuff that I want from my agency that I don't have yet. There's plenty of stuff that I want from my agency that I don't have. There's departments that we've started. There's things that we've been getting off the ground that I would like to go further along. I would like to be, further down the road. But I am happy where we are because this is where we're supposed to be right now. You
So
know,
powerful. So
yeah.
powerful. Well, Theo, you may be 5'3" in physical stature, but you are a giant. You
Thank
are
you.
a giant, and I think that just goes back to what the Lord put in my spirit that 2022, that God is awakening the sleeping giants within you, within me, within all of you who are watching. And I want to, go into 2022, like you said, being where I'm supposed to be. And you've
Hmm.
inspired me to hold on to positive expectations. I thought about what we were going to talk about, and this is perfect timing going into the new year, leaving 2021. And you have really preached the word, my brother. You
Thank
may
you.
not be on a so-called pulpit, but you preach the word to the people who are watching. I think we're going to need to do a part two because I want to get into some of the accomplishments that you and 902 10 Talent have accomplished over the years. But it is such a blessing, and I want to say this before we sign off: is that you are a giving person.
Hmm.
I didn't know all the background stories, but ever since I've known you, you've always been a giving person, given to my wife and I, given to Pastor Keith Allen Henson and Moral Henson. You serve faithfully, and I believe that's why God always has come through for you at the right time. He just always provided for you when it seemed like there was no other way. He always parted the Red Sea for you,
Hmm.
and he will continue to do that. And I know, like you said, there are many more giants that you will slay in the industry because
Hmm.
your heart is right, my brother. You're doing this not just for you, not for Theo to get glory, but you want to help others who are trying to do what you've done and are doing. So, with that being said, just if you would just close us out in prayer. Go ahead.
Yes, Lord. Lord, I just want to thank you. Thank you for this time that I've gotten to spend with Cliff. And thank you for anyone this might inspire. Thank you for this time that we get to talk and just reflect. Thank you for being here with us. Your presence is very strong. And just we appreciate taking you giving us a platform to take this time and have these conversations because people need to hear it. We need to also be reminded as we're having these conversations, as we're talking. We are just where we need to be. There are no coincidences. You have everything designed the way that it is supposed to go. It's a matter of how we navigate throughout life, how we encourage each other, how do we inspire one another. And the glory is not for me, it's not for Cliff, Lord. The glory is always for you. We don't need I don't need to be, nobody needs to glorify Theo Caesar or Teddy Abner or, that. And I thank you for that. It's all about you, Lord, and what you want us to do and what you've empowered us to do, how you would like us to move, Lord. So I just ask that you inspire someone and you leave some seeds in someone or plant some seeds in someone through these conversations that
Lord.
help them to get closer to you, because once we get closer to you, then your will becomes apparent for us, and those steps are a lot easier to take. The time is a lot easier to take. It's easier to be more patient when we know that you're standing down the road where we're going, or we know that we are being pleasing to you, Lord. So we just thank you for the opportunities. We thank you for the challenges as much as we thank you for the victories, because without the bad, we can't know the good. Without the not so great, then nothing is great now, is it? So we thank you for those opportunities, Lord, because it's all a blessing. And every day above ground is a good day. And we thank you for that, Lord. And we just pray to you in Jesus' name, and ask that you continue to be with us and anyone listening or anyone watching. Amen.
Amen. Thank you again, Theo Caesar.
You are very
Available
welcome.
210 talent. Phenomenal story. Audience, I hope that you have been inspired to hold on to positive expectations through this man of God. I know that I have, and I'm so happy that you call me your unc, and I'm so thrilled that you allow me to call you Neff.
Yes. I
All
forced it
right.
on you, as a matter of fact. Y'all didn't I don't know if you
I
I don't know
received
if you remember, but the day there was a day that I came in, it was you and Keith, and I feel like it was one other person. I was like, yo, from now on, you just unc. That's just
it.
it. You unc. You my uncle. That's all to it. Plain and
Yes,
simple.
yes.
And y'all were like, okay. All right.
Hey, man, what could I say? What could I say,
Yeah.
man?
It was like, hey, okay, all right, because me personally, I love my uncles. My uncles, it's always like, first of all, you think of it as your dad's brother or your mom's brother. They tend to be the cool guy, at least in my
All right.
family.
I received
The
that.
uncles, yeah, the uncles always tend to be the cool guy, and I also know that family is not necessarily just who we've been born to through blood. you
Yes.
you you develop so much family throughout life, man. I'm one of those type of people where we've been friends ever. We friends for life. You ain't getting rid of me. You know what I
Praise
mean?
God.
Like, I got friends literally since the first grade
That's
that I'm
awesome.
still cool with to this day. And I'm a 48-year-old man. So so when we create these relationships, they for life. And when I named you uncle, just understood that means family. Period.
I receive it. I receive it. I receive
Yeah.
it 100%. Well, Happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year, Theo. Happy New Year to your beautiful wife, Victoria. And then we're
Thank
going to
you.
have her on the show as well. Very talented actress and singer and writer. So
Yeah.
God bless you all.
God bless. All right. Bye bye. Happy New Year.
Thank you, sir.
Mwah. All right. Bye bye.